Karima, morning to you. Thank you for coming in. So, the president, I was saying, speaking to a rather unimpressed crowd, you heard some booing at the end of his address, and that begs the question then about his address today. Is it too little, too late?
Well, I think what we're beginning to see is an end to the paralysis that seemed to have engulfed the leadership of this country whilst women and children were being raped, abused, and of course whilst migrants from all over the continent were suffering at the hands of people who were burning down their businesses. The president attempted at various levels to intervene, but there was a desperate need for the leader of South Africa, the first statesman, the first citizen of this country, to, of course, demonstrate, one, that he hears the cries of the people, that he understands it, and more importantly, that he's going to do something about it. The fact that it took so long for the president to speak impromptu now and then refer us to a practical set of steps that they're going to take later is an indication, Tembegile, of the PR nightmare that the presidency has had to overcome and still has to overcome. The fact that people booed during that speech gives you an indication that he should have addressed the public a lot longer. But as we say, better late than never. For me, what stood out about this impromptu speech was that he said, we are going to draw a line in the sand. And more importantly, he spoke about funding the proposals that came out of the Summit on Gender-Based Violence. I attended a vigil on Tuesday night at Wits University, and one of the complaints was that since that summit was held, no monies has been put aside to actually implement what needs to happen. So I'm looking forward to hearing how the financial and person power is going to be made available to address the question of the femicide that is in South Africa at the moment.
And again, a long-standing issue, these attacks on women and indeed the murders. And one has to wonder why it is that over the years, even though we've known that this is a problem for the better part of the past 25 years really, why it is that budgets have continued to be slashed, and that when that happened, there wasn't as big an outrage as we see when the individual cases of a murder, of a rape come up.
Absolutely, and I think that if you do not put resources behind a plan of action, you're literally tying your hands behind your back and you're making empty promises. So I want to hear how much of the fiscus is going to be put aside, and this is why we have traditionally called for a gendered look at the budget. If you are planning to build a railway station, are you looking at it through gendered lenses? How many lights should there be? How many CCTV cameras should there be so that women are not abused and raped? Are the rape kits that are at the police station actually being used? And here's the other biggest thing that worries me, Tembegile. The men and women in blue, the police force, the men there are among those as a sector who kill their intimate partners the most. Now, those are the people that are in charge. That is the first port of call when a woman or a child or anyone who's abused go to the police office. And they are often re-victimized when they are there. So I want to hear the president on the training of police officers, the setting up of specialized units that is going to look at sexual and gender-based violence, because there was a really fundamental problem with what Becky Cele, the Minister of Police, said, saying that we're going to put more women in the front because that's going to help. And the response of the state so far has been to constantly put the burden back on women. The first ridiculous message that came out was that women must speak up, as if...
And not succumb.
And
one
not
of the
succumb.
tweets from a minister
yes.
said women must not succumb.
Yes, as if women don't face the risk of losing their lives or their children or their livelihoods when they don't speak up. And it shows you that, you know, language is important, Tembegile. If you don't have the language to deal with what is a pandemic, what is an emergency, what is a crisis in your country, it means that conceptually you don't get to understand what is driving the toxic masculinity. We can put people in